At Norwell and Company, family was more than just a buzzword. It was the word. Every all-hands meeting began with our CEO, Kendra, standing beneath a backlit sign that said, "We're not just a company, we're a nest." Every onboarding package came with a laminated card that read, "Here you belong. Here we protect our own." They called it family culture. And to some extent they played the part well. We had meditation Thursdays, birthday cupcakes, emergency childcare benefits, and Slack channels for everything from pet photos to parenting hacks. But nothing embodied that family spirit more than Alina. The heart of the office. Alina had been at Norwell for 4 years. She wasn't loud or flashy. She wasn't the one giving TED Talk-style presentations or shouting in strategy meetings. But she was the glue. The kind of person who remembered your coffee order, who put sticky notes with encouraging messages on your desk when you'd had a bad call, who never missed a team lunch, even when she had 3 back-to-back client meetings. So when Alina announced she was pregnant, it felt like everyone was excited. "We have our first Norwell baby," Kendra squealed at the next meeting. They threw her a surprise baby shower, balloons, cake, pink and yellow decorations. Even the head of finance awkwardly gifted her a vibrating bouncer chair with a handwritten note. From one spreadsheet parent to another. Something shifted. But something changed around week 24 of her pregnancy. Alina began missing a few meetings. She moved a little slower, sometimes took calls from home. Still, she was showing up, working hard, just more tired. One afternoon, she left early after nearly fainting in the hallway. Kendra's assistant, Jill, rolled her eyes and whispered, "Maybe someone's milking this a bit." I heard it. So did Alina. The next day she looked different. Smaller. Quiet. The email that said nothing. On a rainy Thursday in early June, Alina didn't come in. Nobody thought much of it. But then someone noticed her name was gone from the Slack workspace. Her company email bounced. Her calendar disappeared. When I asked Kendra, she gave a corporate smile and said, "We had to make a difficult personnel decision. It's private, of course. Private. We were a family." That's what they always said. But families don't erase people like that. Later that day, I got a text from Alina. Just 2 sentences. "They fired me. I lost the baby the same night." I didn't reply to Alina's message right away. I stared at my phone, my fingers frozen, the words running in a loop. "They fired me. I lost the baby the same night." No other context. No emojis. Just finality. Like she had nothing left to say, or no energy left to say it. I left work early that day. I told my manager I had a migraine. It wasn't a lie. The silence was the loudest part. By the next morning, her desk had already been cleared. The succulent she kept gone. The mug that said #OneClientWhisper, gone. Even the chair had been replaced. Someone from HR said it had been reassigned, but we all knew what it meant. They were erasing her. Sanitizing the story before anyone could ask questions. The nest was turning cold. And no one was saying anything. Not even the people who'd cried at her baby shower just 2 months earlier. Poking the bear. I wasn't okay with it. So I started asking around. Quietly. Carefully. I didn't storm into offices or call out Kendra in the weekly Zoom. I just started listening. Turns out, people had noticed more than they were letting on. One coworker said Alina had confided in her about a complication during week 21. Another mentioned she had filed for intermittent FMLA, which, if approved, would have protected her time off. Someone else said they heard HR had flagged her department for restructuring right after her 3rd trimester began. And then came the real crack. Marla, one of the more seasoned staffers in accounting, pulled me aside in the break room. "You didn't hear this from me," she whispered. "But Kendra asked legal if FMLA applies when someone's still on probation." But Alina wasn't on probation. Marla's eyes narrowed. Exactly. The document that shouldn't exist. That weekend I couldn't sleep. I dug through old emails, screenshots, calendar invites. Anything that might give context. Then I remembered. Alina had once asked me to proofread a draft she was submitting to HR. A request to reduce her hours temporarily due to high-risk status. I still had the doc saved. In it, she explicitly cited her doctor's recommendation, attached the medical letter, requested accommodations. everything by the book. But clearly the company had written its own rules. The mask falls off. The following Monday, I walked into work like usual. Except nothing felt usual. Because I knew they'd pushed out a pregnant woman, a woman in mourning, because she became too inconvenient for their polished brand of workplace love. I kept hearing that phrase in my head. We're not just a company. We're a family. No. We were a company with birthday bagels and HR manufactured empathy, and a habit of abandoning the people who actually needed care. I didn't know what I was going to do yet. But I knew one thing. I wasn't going to be quiet. I didn't march into HR with a printed file and righteous fury. I didn't blast an email to the entire company. No, I started with a post-it note. It said, if we're really a family, why did we fire someone who needed support the most? I stuck it on the bulletin board outside the break room, next to the flyer for the company picnic, right beneath a sign that read, we rise by lifting others. By noon it was gone. But by 2 p.m., 3 more had popped up, all in different handwriting. Family doesn't ghost pregnant employees. This culture only cares when it's convenient. Alina deserved better. Something had cracked. HR panic and paper smiles. The next day, Kendra made an impromptu appearance on the office floor. She hadn't been down here in months. She wore a pink blazer. She smiled too widely, and she used phrases like, we're aware that some feelings have surfaced. We value every member of our community. We're committed to listening. But she didn't say Alina's name. Not once. Even when someone finally asked directly during Q&A, what happened to Alina? Kendra's smile flickered. Due to privacy concerns, we don't comment on individual employee matters. But we can assure you. That's when I spoke up. Can you assure us it wasn't retaliation? Dead silence. Her lips pressed together like someone had just said a slur. Then she exhaled through her nose and said, let's move on to the next question. And just like that, the illusion snapped. The group chat goes nuclear. That night, a private Slack channel was created. Unofficial. Unmoderated. Invitation only. We called it #RealFamilyTalk. People began sharing their experiences, one by one. An intern who said she'd been denied mental health days. A veteran designer who was quietly demoted after taking time off for chemo. A father who was warned his work focus had slipped after his newborn was hospitalized. This wasn't an isolated incident. It was a pattern. A quiet, polished, pastel-colored system that smiled at you until you became a liability. And then it erased you. Alina speaks. Then, out of nowhere, Alina messaged me. Heard what's happening. I'm not coming back, but I'm watching. Thank you. Just those words gave me more clarity than any corporate slogan ever could. She'd lost her job, her child, her voice. But she still saw us. And it was our turn to speak. The email that went viral. The next morning I wrote an email. Not angry. Not unprofessional. Just honest. I titled it, Let's Talk About What Family Means. In it I shared the timeline of Alina's pregnancy, her documented medical requests, her sudden firing, my own fears, and why I couldn't stay silent anymore. I didn't send it to HR. I didn't even send it to Kendra. I sent it to everyone. And within 20 minutes it had over 80 replies. All with one message. We're with you. By the end of the day my email went out. The company Slack felt like a war zone. People who'd never spoken out were suddenly on fire, dropping receipts, screenshots, and memories they'd buried under polite nods and fake team-building lunches. Even managers chimed in, carefully worded yes but still there. I've had concerns about how we handle leave policies. We should revisit what support actually looks like. But there was one message that froze everyone. It came from a former employee named Rena. She'd quietly resigned the year before. Alina wasn't the first. I had a miscarriage while working at Norwell in 2020. I asked for 2 days to recover. I was told if I couldn't commit to the role emotionally, I should consider stepping away. I resigned the next morning. I was 28. Silence. Then fury. The petition. By Thursday, someone created a change.org petition. Hold Norwell accountable. Protect workers during pregnancy and loss. In under 48 hours, it had over 1,200 signatures. Many from inside the company. People forwarded it to media contacts. Alumni started tagging Norwell's LinkedIn page. Suddenly, we weren't just internal noise. We were public pressure. And Norwell? They panicked. The official statement. On Friday morning, an all-company Zoom was scheduled. Kendra, flanked by 2 legal reps, read from a clearly rehearsed statement. We are heartbroken to hear the stories shared this week. Norwell's intention has always been to foster a workplace rooted in empathy and trust. However, we acknowledge we may have fallen short. We are launching an external review and listening sessions effective immediately. The chat exploded. Say her name. Say Alina's name. You don't need a review. You need to take responsibility. Kendra paused, rattled. And finally, quietly, she said it. We deeply regret the way Alina's situation was handled. It wasn't much, but it was something. The aftershock. The following Monday, HR leadership was placed on leave. A third-party HR audit firm was contracted. Kendra announced a temporary step-down as CEO to reflect and rebuild trust. Posters that once read, "We're not just a company, we're a family," were quietly taken down. In their place, nothing. Just blank walls. For the first time, it felt honest. Alina again. A week later, I got another message from Alina. I saw the CEO step down. I cried. Not because it fixes anything, but because now they can't pretend nothing happened. Thank you for not letting them erase me. She didn't say more. She didn't need to, because she wasn't just a statistic now. She was seen, and we made sure of it. Weeks passed. Norwell wasn't the same. The pastel-colored slogans were gone. The nest had grown quiet, and strangely more human. People looked each other in the eye now. Meetings didn't start with hollow pep talks anymore, but with actual check-ins. And in the corner of the break room, where Alina's baby shower photo once hung, someone pinned up a different note. Support isn't something you print on a banner. It's what you give when no one's watching. The quiet shift. The third-party HR audit released its findings. They confirmed what we already knew. Unlawful termination under the guise of performance reassessment. Ignored FMLA protections. Systemic pressure on employees not to take medical or personal leave. The headlines hit every major HR blog. Norwell issued a public apology. They pledged to revise their leave policies. They partnered with pregnancy loss advocacy groups. But you know what changed the most? Us. We started speaking differently, asking harder questions, listening without waiting to reply. My exit interview. 3 months after it all unfolded, I left Norwell. Not because I was pushed out, they wouldn't dare, but because I knew I'd done what I came to do. On my last day, I had my exit interview with a freshly hired wide-eyed HR coordinator. She asked me the usual questions. What could we have done better? Would you recommend Norwell to others? I looked her in the eye. Tell the truth. Don't ever confuse branding with culture. And don't let family become an excuse to hurt people quietly. She nodded. I think she understood. A letter from Alina. A week after I started my new job, I got a letter in the mail. Handwritten. No return address. I recognized the handwriting immediately. It was from Alina. Inside she wrote, I don't know if I'll ever go back to working in an office. I'm still healing from everything. But knowing that someone stood up for me, knowing that I wasn't forgotten or buried under a fake banner, it helped more than I can say. I thought I lost everything, but you helped me feel visible again. At the bottom in small letters she wrote, P.S. If you ever have a daughter, name her after someone brave. Final thoughts. They called it family culture. But what they really meant was compliance in a costume. The real family, that was the one we built when we refused to stay silent. When we remembered that empathy isn't a perk, it's a principle. And Alina? She became more than a cautionary tale. She became the reason we chose to care. The name we carry when we say, never again. Not on our watch.